All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Coffee with Cramer and Colleen. I am Don Cramer with Urban Nest Realty with the Cramer Group. And joining us today is special friend, guest, and colleague, Ashley Remington of Lawyers Title. Ashley, for most of her career, was a title and escrow officer. Now we work with Ashley quite a bit more on the marketing business development side. However, we enjoy having Ashley in now and again to answer questions from the front lines on title and escrow. Ashley, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And I know you've been doing quite a bit of videos through Zoom and Facebook as well. A lot of times they include your beautiful little puppies running around as I think you've trained them as props.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They're little celebrities themselves.
Exactly. And for those tuning in today, if this is your first time with Coffee and Cramer and Colleen, do us a favor, hit the like button or comment below. If just to say hi, we'd love to message and shout out to you. Also, too, you're probably wondering, okay, where's Colleen today? Again, we have been busy with real estate. You know, that real estate thing keeps moving along. So she's been out there with clients and colleagues getting a couple listings going, and we've got a couple of escrow closings coming up soon. So we're excited to have Colleen be out in the field. She will be joining us back on the interwebs here soon in future videos. So she does say hello and toast you with her coffee mug remotely. So Ashley, thanks for joining in today. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, we do a lot together with regards to business development and such, and your the team over at Lawyers, especially special shout outs to Desiree and Yesenia, who we manage a lot of escrows through, and titles have been great to just keep a lot of this stuff going. And it's a lot of behind the scenes juggling to make sure a house is transitioned properly.
It sure is.
Absolutely. And so we kind of want to dive in a little bit today about sort of title and escrow, especially right now with COVID-19, how that has changed some things, and then what we can see going forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some significant changes, and even still, as we're getting alerts from management. We still don't know what the new norm is going to look like for even just our title and escrow industry, because we had to immediately go into everybody working remotely from home. um, it became, that they made it through 2 months now of having to communicate with their assistant remotely, answer their calls from their clients remotely, through their cell phone and everything. And now how do we slowly integrate them, employees coming back to the offices full time? How do we lower their risk of exposure to viruses and germs and whatnot? And then, for the people that maybe were more successful working from home, how does that affect clientele and customer service and everything? So there's a lot still being worked out as we head into the May 15th. Is there a name for coming out of quarantine? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure either right now. I know they call, I don't know if they call it stage 1, stage 2, stage 1B.
Probably changes daily, just like everything.
Exactly. So, one of the big things about title and escrow is, there's a lot of lead up to it with regards to getting properties in place. So let's kind of talk about sort of, we'll start it from the start to the finish. So in the starting standpoint on title and escrow, what is there? We don't really see a lot of change there. I mean, we go into contract, we open up an escrow file with a company, let's say like with Desiree and Yesenia with Lawyers. We put an escrow account in, money is wired, documents are emailed or docu-shared back and forth, and that moves pretty. I mean, that really hasn't changed much.
not in the 20 years that I've been doing escrow. You know, wires are now the preferred form of payment versus, you know, 20 years ago, everything was cashier's checks, right?
Yep.
But, you know, we already had an issue with wire fraud, you know, being such a huge, I don't want to say epidemic. There's probably a better word for it. You know, but wire fraud was becoming more and more prevalent, and you know, we're working really hard to get the word out. Well, now with this coronavirus, you saw even more cyber attacks or attempts at hacking with you know, emails about that look like it's coming from your bank and stuff. So on top of what the consumers are already getting, you know, inundated with as far as hacking attempts, now you've got, you know, a real estate transaction where we're saying, okay, you're ready to open escrow. We need you to send your earnest money in. You know, there's these steps to make sure that your funds are secured and that you wire to the right account. But it's, you know, it's even more, people are on such high alert, you know, so you're constantly having to, you know, you do have to put fear in people to make sure they're aware. If you know, if you just get wiring instructions from anybody saying that it's escrow and they're unsecured, you know, it's probably not us. So, you know, be aware. But then at the same time, you know, they're so hesitant now. Well, is there another way to send my funds? Because, you know, if there's so much fear in wiring and so many things that can go wrong, why do I want to do it? You know, so it's kind of battling the two different, you know, what's the word? The lesser of two evils, I guess. The good thing is that you still can accept a personal check for your earnest money if it's not a quick cash closing and you're getting a loan 30 days out. If there's time for the check to clear, personal checks are still acceptable as a form of earnest money deposit. So for those, you know, exceptionally nervous buyers, just collect the check from them, and then, you know that you don't have to have the wire fraud conversation, and, you know, hopefully put their mind at ease a little more.
So with that in mind too, with the wiring, you know, there are businesses, especially, you know, financial institutions, some are pretty easy, pretty friendly with regards to, okay, I can go in through my online portal securely and set up a wire, transfer it over. Then there's some where even larger institutions, especially with COVID-19, got to schedule probably an appointment. Wires may not go out immediately, they may be queued up. So in order to meet the earnest money demand deposit requirement in a purchase contract, you know, we have to make sure we're allowing enough time, and as buyers, they know what their financial institution's requiring.
Yeah, I mean, even, you know, myself personally, I just switched over my banking to US Bank, and, you know, asked if I could send a wire, was trying to do it online. Well, I've never sent a wire through them before, so they need me to go into a branch. Well, the branches, you know, they're doing the window banking and stuff. So, you know, there was going to be such a delay that, you know, it was almost like just I pulled out the cash and ended up just taking it, you know, across town to where I was trying to wire to.
Yep.
With escrow funds, we can't accept cash. There's no way to source those funds, right? So there has to be a paper trail, but you've got to, you know, allow for delays in not only banks, but then, you know, it's got to go to the Federal Reserve, which is back east, before it comes back to our bank account here locally. So even though you're sending a local wire that's Bank of America to US Bank, it still has to travel back east to get here. So, you know, people don't always understand that it's not immediate. You know, we don't immediately have those funds just because you sent a wire. So
Yep.
when you've got an offer that says that you're going to deposit earnest money funds within 24 hours of seller's acceptance, and then your buyer works and doesn't get to the bank, and, you know, now 4 o'clock the next day, and that wire is not going to go out if you don't get it out before. Most of the bank's cutoff times are 1, 2 o'clock. So at 4 o'clock, when you're sending that wire, it doesn't even have a shot of leaving your bank until the very next morning. So now you're already out of your, in breach of your contract, technically, if they look that closely at it.
Right. Yeah. And usually there's a little bit of flexibility, but again, it is key about getting the wiring instructions right. So, so as we move through this, are there any, new addendums or documentation with regards to change the title escrow process in light of COVID-19 that's coming down? I know as realtors, we have new addendums and notifications on COVID, but from a title transfer process.
As far as I know, there's been no additional disclaimers or anything added to our set of documents.
Okay.
Because the purchase agreement serves as joint escrow instructions, when you guys added that, addendum, COVID addendum, or whatever it's being called, those are still our joint escrow instructions of how to handle things. So as long as that's, attached to the purchase agreement, then that would serve as our additional disclosure as well.
Got it. And then, so as we move down the journey, now we get down to typically the last week, which is, okay, if it's a loan, client's approved. Now we're, especially with a loan, because we have documents coming from the lender, title documents for transfer, successful transfer of title and deeds and recording. And we're down to that last week. How has that changed now? What is a client, a buyer and seller to expect?
Well, I think that's been the most interesting, for me coming from the escrow world into sales and kind of watching from the sidelines now, how are the notaries handling this? Because
Right.
we still needed documents to be notarized, and they still have to make a living, so they had to kind of expose themselves to strangers all day that they don't know. So lawyers title, we just paid internally to send mobile notaries out for all of our closings over the last 6-8 weeks, however long it's been. But now it's time to start getting people back into our office and going back to signings. Well, what does that look like going forward? Do our notaries, are they going to be wearing masks and gloves on every signing? Is it just as clients request it? I mean, what is this all going to look like? But and another thing too is now we have digital e-notarization, I guess. So that's a huge leap for us. I mean, in the 20 years that I was doing escrow, we've been talking about, why can't we sign documents electronically for the 20 years that I've known, so we're getting there. They've figured out the verification process to make sure that we can prove that, the person we're notarizing is in fact the person they're claiming to be, right?
Yep.
The only problem is that we still don't have, HUD and FHA and, all the lending entities, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they're not on board with an electronically signed note and deed of trust, which going back to our recession, do you remember they called it robo signing, where if you
yes. Yeah. That was
couldn't provide the original signed note, you couldn't foreclose on the home. So you still have that obstacle. So we can't, we, as great as it is that we've come this far with remote online signings or notarization, the lenders still won't be able to accept e-signed documents, a full set of documents, So I think what's happening now is they're starting to do I know Evergreen has hybrid signings. So, half the set of docs is DocuSigned, and then whatever needs to be notarized gets sent to title, And, it saves the buyers a lot of time just getting in and signing what needs to be notarized. We can do seller digital e-notarization, which is amazing, and I know you and I have had private conversations about what great selling point that is for you to be able to market. Hey, we can go completely digital on your entire real estate transaction now.
Yep.
That's amazing. That's what they want to hear.
Exactly. Builds a very seamless digital experience because, people, it's timely. I mean, I try to treat, we treat the signing as a very, momentous day. I mean, and it
It is.
needs to be smooth and pleasurable that to our buyers and our sellers. That's why, with you and with Desiree and Yesenia, I'm there as well. Colleen's there because we want to make sure things move along orderly because, just to make sure the documents are signed and everything's happy because, these are people's largest, these are the life-changing moments.
Well, and you're at the finish line, and that was always my favorite part of escrow was the signing because, you've got the buyer that's just so excited. They never dreamed they'd be, buying a home, and here they are, and they're signing their lives away. They're so excited. I mean, can't tell you how many times they would cry or hug me or, like that's your moment to take pictures of them and, congratulate them on their social media so their friends and family know. And with sellers, they're moving on to the next chapter of their lives. So a lot of times, they're just as excited for whatever that new phase of life is. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so aside from the whole short sale, era, whatever, it's a great time for us all to be present. They don't know what title and escrow even means. All they know is you sold them the house or you listed their house and sold it and we're at closing. So, this is a time where we come together and show that, these are our partners. We're here for you, Mr. Buyer, Mr. Seller, and you're going to have a great experience. So how does that look when we start going more digital now?
No, absolutely. Yeah. We're about being a very personalized experience, but, now we need to make sure we're providing that in a very digital format. So
Mm-hmm.
because of, not just health and safety, but in a lot of cases, convenience too, because people's schedules are pretty demanding. And, now with the COVID situation, there's also very topsy-turvy right now.
Yeah, and even thinking coming out of, when everything opens back up, what are people's schedules going to look like? All these hotel casino workers, are they going to be, working overtime to where they just can't take off to go to a signing at all? You've just had 2 months off. No, you can't cut out early to go to a signing, so how do we accommodate all that and still give them that 5-star experience?
Right. So one question I've got is, we have had quite a few lenders on a little over a week ago. Michelle Leaf at Fairway Independent Mortgage, Melissa Despy at Nevada State Bank, and such. So we've talked about the lending side. Has there been any issues with regards to forbearance that has come your way on the title side?
Not on the title side. Once it's closed, we never really hear
Because
anything.
that whole thing is packaged up and sent off and such.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd be curious about that.
and the interesting thing is, I've interviewed different lenders who there's not really a system in place. It's like a lot of people are on forbearance where it sounds like they still are expected to come out of pocket, you know, 10 grand maybe for their 3-4 missed payments at the end of this June or July. I spoke to my credit union who has my mortgage at the beginning of this, and they said, we're just doing deferments and we'll just tack it on to the end of your mortgage. So, if I have 300 months left, now I have 301 or 302. So it'd be more like almost like a note modification, but only to extend the term, not change any of the rest of the interest rate or anything.
And
But
because I mean the loan documents, I mean that is the contract, and it's designed to outline of how things are paid, when it's paid, and such. So you've kind of modified the contract. So none of that we're seeing right now is bouncing back to title and escrow. And then also too, we don't know which lenders, how are they going to be managing with regards to, will there be a lien filed? Will there be, how does this impact reconveyance on?
right, that's another thing. Another one that I heard for the forbearance was that lenders were going to attach like a silent second mortgage to your home, that when you
Mhm.
pay off your first mortgage, whether you sell or refinance, you'd have to pay off that forbearance second lien. Okay, well, that's good. Will there be interest? You'd still, no matter what it is, there would still have to be some type of agreement signed, because now you're changing the terms of your original note and original agreement with the lender. So whether it's
Exactly.
extending the time or doing a second lien, there's got to be paperwork. What does this paperwork look like? It doesn't sound like anybody's seen any. It's just, I just haven't made my payment.
Right, exactly. It's been a lot of just chat and progress, and then I like to always use the term of, they're kind of building the airplane while it's flying.
Yeah,
Uh, I
I
think the
like that.
engines are just still getting put on. So we're not sure how, is this going to you know we know that there's forbearance and such happening right now in the here and present, but 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 or 3 years from now, as we all go back to work, and basically, a lot of things are going to get settled out. There may be some things down line that we're not fully aware of right now, that to allow to help track these things, because ultimately the loan has to be paid off, or somebody at the institution is going to have to do something to the loan. And after '08, I'm sure there's still also legislation and documentation weighing against how you sign, modify, make changes.
Well, and you know how that is. It's like, you're waiting for government officials to make decisions on what the procedure is going to be, but they're not in our industry, so they don't really know what that looks like when they're saying, "Oh yeah, the forbearance and the deferments, like you can skip it and not get a late fee, and not be penalized and not get an NOD filed on your home." Well, thank you for that, but like
Exactly.
there's still a process. But so it's interesting, and I remember looking back at the short sale days when the short sales just came in so fast.
Yeah.
Everybody was hit at the same time, that all of a sudden their home value just wasn't there, and everybody had done 80, or what is it, 100% financing. Now your home's worth half of what you owe, and you owe 100% of it. And so um there weren't there weren't short sale departments, there weren't loss mitigation. Remember, they would make you miss a payment before they'd even take your phone call as a
Right.
consumer.
You actually had to be in some level of default.
Right, to even discuss a modification, which was terrible. You're forcing people to ruin their credit, to devastate themselves. There's our little celebrity ad. Um, but you were forcing people to devastate their lives when they were trying to be ahead of it, do the right thing, get the modification, stay current on their payments. So we know that we're trying to avoid that again, because we've got people in equity, or with equity, they don't want to stop paying. You
Right.
know, if they could take the deferment and tack it to the end of the mortgage, great, let's do that. But then you've got the lender saying, well, we need if you're going to refinance your home, we would need proof of 12 months of consecutive payments. How does that affect us now?
Yeah.
So you've got the lenders that are scared, all these new buyers that we have that are closing during this pandemic. If every bank site you go on says, click here for, COVID, whatever. So it's almost kind of forcing people to want to skip whatever payments they owe, whether it's credit cards or mortgages or personal loans, whatever. And then all these new buyers that are going to walk in and be like, well, if it's kind of a free pass, is it a free pass?
Yeah, and right now we're our I wouldn't say standard answer, but our answer is no, it's not a free pass because there's still a lot of unknowns. Things are being done. I mean, there's some avenues being made, being written or being discussed coming down from the federal government because we don't want to have a repeat of '08. And I don't, and we're in a good position if we can work through this to not just avoid an '08, but still have a healthy real estate market while a lot of other areas are still under stress.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, as best as possible, make a payment.
If you've got the money, make the payment.
Make the payment. Don't think, okay, hey, look, this is not a free money exercise. Make the payment, get it down, because you're going, the downstream effects, it might be a pinch now, but the downstream effects later on are going to probably most likely be in your favor. Like you said, with regards to refinancing, when it comes to any type of liens or things, it does come up for sale time, so things are nice and clean, because who knows, like you said, we may pull a preliminary title report and we're going to go, what's all this new stuff?
That's usually how it happens, right?
Exactly.
And people don't remember what they signed. Right now we're in that state of panic. So if we're unemployed and we need to skip the payment because there's just no money coming in, so whatever, we sign whatever we need to sign to be able to skip the payment, right? Well, then, a year from now, you go to list your home and title calls you and says, what's with this second? I need a loan number and a payoff. And you have no idea because, you just signed a bunch of stuff to skip your payment, not realizing it was a second lien against your home and there's interest attached to it. Or, you didn't bother to look at what the terms were because you were just in that desperate state of needing to keep, not make that payment. So, it's going to be interesting. What I love, and I know you joined me on the Mike Ferry presentation the other day.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, I was so happy to see you there. I loved that Mike Ferry said, there's no reason that home values should be dropping. There's plenty of supply out there. Anytime, it's only when there's too much inventory that it causes prices to drop.
Yep.
Or lack of supply causes prices to increase. We're at a steady increase of inventory, right? What do we have on the market right now?
Just shy of 6,000 single family homes in the Valley.
Which is that's a good steady average, right?
It's actually lower than we were a year ago.
Okay.
So, and then, in escrows, I believe the latest number we'll be confirming, it looks like we're about 2,500 in escrow. Okay. So now that number should be higher, but I think that is, that's just, the nature we're in. Mm-hmm. There was an article today in the Wall Street Journal that's indicating that home prices may see appreciation.
I hope
so. The reason being is people that are in their homes is such a different position than 2008. In 2008, right now, 50% of the mortgages in the United States, so we're talking the big picture, less than 50% left on their mortgage.
Lucky.
Lucky, exactly. Lucky. And And there's a large chunk of them. I think the number's 30%, if I remember correctly from our stats in the United States, that they're, as homeowners, their mortgages are paid off. So you have that. Then you couple it for, okay, well, what were people doing in '08 versus now with regards to pulling equity out? Well, in the 3 years up to the crash, so '06, '07, '08, they were pulling out 200 billion plus out of their value of their house, whether it was to go leverage and buy another house, jet skis, motorhome,
Yeah.
exotic cars,
Yeah.
you name it, pay off credit cards. Well, that's the 3 years leading up to this. So we're looking at 17, 18, 19. Well, that number is more like 200 billion. So it's a fraction. So the bottom line is there's there's still a big well of equity of homes in the United States. So, and if there's people that can still, one, they've got equity in their houses are either paid off or they have less than 50% of their mortgage left. Those people can go, okay, you know what? I don't need to sell right now. I'll wait till this goes over and let's see what kind of, it's like a storm, batten down the hatches, wait till the coast is clear and see what happens. So that's having a supply effect to where there may not be enough homes, but it's just keeping pace with the demand. But there are a couple of markets that may see, because I know with the other thing that right now everyone's been doing, they've been on Zillow.
Even I have been, and I preach all the time, stay away from Zillow.
Exactly. So they're on the Z site, checking it out, checking out houses, whether they're getting remodeling ideas. They also, again, okay, we're in week 7 here in Nevada. It's kind of stay at home for the most part. So, we've gotten to know our houses a lot more, even if we might have been in them 5 to 10 years. So there may be a pent up demand. They're in position with their jobs. They didn't have a forbearance issue, and we may have a slight slingshot effect. Now it might be temporary, and then maybe some more broader long term things set in. However, right now prices, because of, like you said, supply and demand, are holding their own, and in some markets we may even see an increase. I'm not sure if we'll see one here in Las Vegas, because we were running pretty hot.
Well, as long as it doesn't
forward.
decrease, that's all
Exactly.
I care about. And I know that's going to be what everybody else's concern is. I feel like coming out of this, there's going to be a lot more listings, because those people that were just stuck at home, if they didn't like their house to begin with, and now you've just had to sit here and look at all the things, you're not going to spend money fixing up a house that you hate, so you've been sitting there just hating on it even more. So I just think that there's going to be a lot of listings. And what about our tenants that had to miss their payment, and their landlords aren't allowed to evict them? Well, the landlords and the owners still have to pay mortgages if they have mortgages on the property. So
Pay mortgages, have to pay their property taxes, HOA fees.
so does that mean we end up getting buyers because of is there going to be bad blood between tenants and landlords or owners because of this, what I guess moratorium is what that word is, right? For
Yeah, I mean, so we're kind of like on a moratorium from processing evictions, and I think it overall makes sense, and we're hoping, from what we've seen so far, we've seen a fair amount of tenants still working with their landlords on making their rents. Now we have seen some that have gone, okay, you know what, I can't pay you all of it. We're part of it, and in normal cases, we normally say, well, you really shouldn't do that from a standpoint of your mortgage contract. However, right now, it's makes sense probably for all parties, and then sort of figure out, okay, well, the balance left over, how best to handle it. So I haven't heard of a massive collapse, but you do hear nationally, pretty large numbers. I haven't heard a Nevada number yet on, on how much we have with regards to rent or mortgages in actual forbearance. But I believe we'll probably be hearing that number pretty, my guess here in the next few weeks.
Yeah. Well, I remember when the pandemic first, took place, or the orders to stay home. One of my realtors asked me, or told me about absentee, or what am I trying to say? Vacant rentals.
Oh,
I
absentee
meet with a
owner.
lot of new agents that are out showing, rentals, and they weren't able to get a single application accepted because they were just flying off the market so fast. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I hear is all these vacant rentals just sitting empty on the market. So,
Yep.
what happened there? Where'd everybody go?
Well, and in Nevada, I mean, we're kind of working through it, but in other states like California, and I'm not quite sure how this affects title or escrow or title over there, but there is some discussion for if there's inventory, if there's homes or properties that have been sitting there for months on end without an occupant, there may be, there's some legislation at work that may be, okay, the government stepping in because of their homeless problem.
Oh,
So, I mean, that's definitely a story for another day. And it's something, I'm not dishing on California, but it is something being, some legislation being banted about in Sacramento. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
no kidding.
It's nothing that we're really seeing or being tossed about right now in Nevada, but we are kind of nearby. But
Yeah, we're usually, quick to follow.
sometimes,
Sometimes.
yeah. Well, Ashley, appreciate you tuning in today. So I take it you weren't with coffee this morning. You told me you were loading up first thing.
Yeah, I already had 2 cups before we hopped on here, so I figured I should probably calm it down because, just like you, I got to make my prospecting calls, and I have a tendency to
Appointment setting.
go fast.
Appointment setting.
I'm sorry, appointment setting. Having
So,
more conversations.
yes. So as you, and I greatly appreciate you inviting me to your video share the other day with Mike Ferry. I will be on in 20 minutes with Tom Ferry.
The competition.
Exactly. This real estate thing's a dog eat dog world, and sometimes we are wearing milk bone underwear, as I like to say.
I like that. Oh, I like that a lot. Me and dog references.
So,
Well, I
Ashley,
appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
yeah, no, absolutely. And love to kind of catch up with you because as there's new news or as sort of things like the remote online notary, kind of takes place, or you've got some specifics as to kind of how that works with lawyers, I'd love to have you back and we can chat about that with everyone.
Yeah, maybe we can, once everybody starts to go back to work, kind of fill you in on what it looks like from, our perspective, offices and signing procedures, and hopefully we'll have some progression with our e-notarization within the lending world.
Yeah,
How cool would
absolutely.
that be?
Yeah, that'd be great to have you back. It's a pleasure, Ashley. And so again, on behalf of myself, Don Cramer, and my partner, Colleen Schaefer, we appreciate Ashley tuning in today. And we've got a couple more shows rest of this week. Tomorrow, it's going to be good because we're going to be discussing the week over week numbers and then also some preliminary numbers on April. On Thursday, Barbara Rychek. Barbara is a realtor in Atlanta, Georgia, and she will be tuning in and we'll be talking about our mutual markets. And then on Friday, John Perticchese with ASAP Security will be joining in and we're going to be talking about, home security, things and monitoring, things of that nature. So again, on behalf of Colleen Schaefer and I'm Don Cramer with the Cramer Group, we're more now than ever. Your real estate experience matters. So give us a call if we can help you with any questions you may have on buying, selling, investing in real estate, especially in this new COVID-19 world. So Ashley, cheers to you.
Thank you, Don.
Joining in. Appreciate it. Thanks.
I
And
like
have a wonderful day. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.